Hey, this is Ihab. In this video I'm going to demonstrate how to create a template for thumbnails using Photoshop. In this demo I am not going to give you precise resolution information to follow, but rather an understanding of how you can create a template, whether based on random resolution or just by improvising. The tools that I'm going to be providing are the most critical part, because once you understand how those tools can be used together, then it would be really easy for you in the future to make any template based on whatever client requests. So I'm going to start by creating a file of 2K by 2K, and then the first thing I'm going to do after is checking and making sure that I do have the rulers. Currently my rulers are set for percentage, so if you want to change from percentage to centimeter or to pixels, you can just right mouse button, click on the rulers and change that. So in my case I have it set for percent. You would notice that it would show you from far an increment of 5% each step. So in my case here I zoomed in, so I was able to look at 2%, and that is the increment that I wanted to have to start with the corner of my template. And I'm going with 2% because I like it to be elegant, I suppose, to really thick from the corners. Next I'll create a new layer, and then I'm going to go to the rectangular marquee selection tool, and I'm going to select the fixed ratio. Then I'm going to type in 16 by 9, which is the aspect ratio of the full HD resolution of the final video that I'm going to be making. It's important to make sure that you start right by making the correct aspect ratio, because when it comes to thumbnailing, it's very critical to create the composition right. And you want to keep in mind that the thumbnail is going to be your map throughout the process of digital matte painting. Notice how my A and B colors are not black and white. Two hotkeys that I want to mention. If you click X, it's going to swap the A and B colors, but if you click D, it's going to default those A and B colors to black and white. So now that I have an active selection, I am going to fill that selection with color by clicking and holding Alt and then backspace, which is going to fill that selection with the A color, which is the black in this case. And then I'm going to deselect. You'll notice here I'm showing you the long way of deselecting, but the shortcut you need to practice is Control D. And then after that, it's going to be much easier for me to drag that rectangular shape and just move it around. And you'll notice here that I'm using the guides and I am snapping that rectangular in a way that I'm kind of eyeballing it. After that, I would select multiple of those rectangles, and then while holding the Alt, using the select tool, shortcut is V, I'm going to drag down those rectangles. So because I'm holding down the Alt, is going to actually make copies of those. So I'll go one by one, and therefore now I have 6 of those thumbnails. But up until now I'm still not certain that the spacing between those frames is accurate, and that's something that I'm going to be working on. So I'm going to create, using the marquee tool, a rectangle, and I'm going to color it just to make sure that I can drag it easily. And I'm going to snap it on those frames in a way that I would make sure that the same square has the same room between those frames, meaning that it assures me that I have the same spacing between them. So again, this is a method where I'm completely eyeballing things. In the meantime, I'm getting a really precise results. And in this part, I would go and hover the mouse over the thumbnails of those layers. I click and hold Control, and you would notice that once you click and hold Control, the mouse cursor changes its shape. And what's happening there is that once you click with the left mouse button, Photoshop is going to create a selection for you based on the pixels in that layer. So click and hold Control, select with the left mouse button on the thumbnail of that layer, and then you could also continue with that process by clicking and holding Shift and go to the other layers, and therefore you can accumulatively select all of those rectangles that you created and make a unified selection of all of them. And then you would use the same method of creating a new layer and then filling that layer with the Alt and backspace, or if you want to fill it with the B color, white in this example, you would select the Control and backspace. And now that I'm done, I'm going to go and create a text, and then I select multiple ones, all 3, and then by clicking and holding Alt and moving them with the left mouse button, I actually get a duplication of those, and then I would go and double click on the T button or thumbnail, so I would be able to change the name of those thumbnails.